All right. Welcome back. It is October 15th. Welcome back to Product Coffee. We're going to dig really deep into a rock solid framework to help you maximize the effectiveness of your product management process today. We'll get into that a little bit later, but first we're going to get into our first cup. So, too often companies want product managers, but they end up hiring project managers with better titles and higher salaries. The weird thing is they really focus on expecting deliverables after discovery. They focus on execution over insight and velocity over vision. So this week for our first cup, we're going to take that on. We've got an article from Fast Company called Stop Hiring Product Managers Like Project Managers. And we're going to talk about what's lost when product managers are treated like project trackers instead of problem solvers and how to fix it. So let's meet our panel first up. All right. He turned product chaos into competence and gave us a framework built to last. Let's welcome the CEO of Product Growth Leaders, Steve Johnson. Hey, Steve. And our resident voice of reason with just enough mischief to keep us honest, it's Jerry Odenwelder. And the CEO of Career Whisperer, Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Measure Up and proud owner of his own fire truck, Josh McAfee. And by day, she leads product for financials at Elite Technologies. And on the weekend, she's chasing tiny doors around Atlanta. Welcome, Kelly Jones. All right, let's get into it. I wanted to start with you, Steve. I know we had a little bit of back and forth on this article, and it's no secret that product managers are often relegated to project task work and managing workflow over actually managing to outcomes. What did you see in this article that really caught your attention, and how do we fix it?
One of the quotes in the article I ended up writing down in a project mindset is how can we build this faster?
Yeah.
Whereas a product mindset is should we build this at all?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working a lot with teams lately on this whole outcome thing. You've probably all heard me say when a customer tells you what feature they want, they're almost always wrong. But when they tell you what problem they're trying to solve, they're almost always right. And I
Right.
can't tell you the number of times I have had a stakeholder say, hey, do this thing. And I'm like, I don't know why you're trying to do that. And I don't even quite know what it is you want me to do. One example, one day I'm in my kind of volunteer work. The stakeholder said, hey, could you put this thing on our homepage? And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. And then, I was like, why? And he said, no, just do it. Just do it. And so I did. And he's like, I can't find it on the homepage. And I'm like, I can. And he finally said, oh, I didn't mean the homepage. I meant the other page. And so, his specification was flawed. And instead saying, hey, I'm trying to accomplish this goal. And then I can be the one to say, oh, well, in that case, we should do a button or we should do a banner or we should do, a landing page. Let me deal with the solution as a developer in this story. Let the product manager or the customer representative tell me what problem I'm trying to solve. But I see it as pointed out in the article. I see it everywhere. It's like we hire a product manager and then say, where's your Gantt chart? And my most hated, reviled artifact is the roadmap, which everybody thinks is a Gantt chart, except it was created before anybody had any idea what it was we were building.
Or how they were going to do it, or what technology they were going to use, or any of those pieces. Yep.
And nowadays, all you have to do is every quarter just put AI.
I think we're going to talk about that a lot next week because I think that's starting to crash and burn for a lot of people. And they're starting
It
to see
certainly is.
the things we've been yelling about for the last several months or a couple of years, that over dependence on AI is really starting to rear its ugly head. And we're going to dig into that.
Gartner says we're sliding into the, what is it, depths of insanity?
The
Cloth of
cloth of
disillusion?
disillusionment.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a Princess Bride and Gartner mixed up.
That's fair enough. So, Jerry, you work with a lot of different companies and teams on this, and you've worked with a lot of leaders who have made some questionable hires for product management, having the wrong expectations. How do you coach people to focus on the right work for product managers so that everybody's getting the most value out of the people that are filling those roles?
Yeah, when I first read this article, I was like in the throes of everything that's being talked about in the art. Like I read, I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't talk to this person, but they know what I'm going through
Uh-huh.
in multiple areas. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that in order to achieve the outcome, you have to have some output. And so I think just a lot of times people, you can see the progression of the output much faster than you can see the outcome you're trying to achieve. And people overfocus instead of taking the long view on, hey, we're trying to increase conversions, for instance. It's much easier for me to look at, have we made this change to the website? Have we made this change to the integrations? Have we made this and so we just over focus on that, and it becomes this, oh yeah, I'm the thoughts aren't coming together.
But your shirt
Um,
looks damn good.
Sexy, I heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's prevalent. I see it when I talk to customers. I've had similar experiences to what Steve was just talking about, where you ask, why are we doing this? And you get a blank stare. What outcomes are we trying to achieve? You get a blank stare. And I think AI makes it worse. Steve called out the comment earlier that's earlier in the article about project being focused on speed, product being focused on value. My second favorite quote is the one that the article wraps up with, which is, in a time when everything can ship quicker, right? We've got all this AI ability to build faster. Competitive advantage comes from building the right thing. By understanding the customer, by understanding their problems, by understanding our competitors and how we differentiate from them and where we have that competitive advantage. It's understanding that stuff, which is the root of product management, that actually makes a difference.
Good call. Josh, you sit on our panel today, you sit in a unique position. You've been in talent acquisition and sourcing of talent for about 1,000,000 years. And and you and I've talked about this quite a bit. There is a real challenge in helping hiring managers, CEOs especially, and focus in on what it is they really need to hire versus what they think they need to hire. It goes back to kind of Steve's same comment. If they tell you the feature they want, they tell you the person they want, are they often wrong? And it's really more about what they want to accomplish. How do you manage these conversations with your clients?
So we see it frequently. Unfortunately, a lot of times TA just doesn't understand. Talent acquisition just doesn't really understand needs versus wants, or really how to articulate what's going to work for the business. And they're the ones responsible for the front end. So if the people that are finding the talent and connecting with them are looking for the wrong things, then things go haywire. We always start with making sure that our client truly map that we don't believe job descriptions. So we start and we want to map business needs to a job description. So we'll have a job description from a client. A lot of times it'll say project manager or product manager or product marketing or analyst. I mean, we see all iterations, and then really mapping those business needs to it is what gets you there. And we see people conflating product managers and project managers all the time. So for me, it's just, making sure people are actually talking to each other, and that the people that are going to find them are aligned with what the needs actually are. And we see it all the time. I mean, they want a product manager for a fully existing product that is then going to be focused on updates and making sure that the product continues to work. And they're giving more focus to that than actually creating, or is it understanding what's going on with the product and what the client needs are. A good application of AI that we don't see enough is if you're using a ticketing system, throwing all of your tickets into AI and saying, "Hey, what are the things our customers are complaining about the most? What's the stuff that keeps breaking?" And letting product managers, have at that. We also see a common theme is that unintentionally organizations put product dev, product management, and customer success in conflict with each other for one simple reason. They're not comped on things that are complementary. They're comped in a way that puts them in conflict, or they're not encouraged to communicate. So honestly, communication and collaboration fixes pretty much everything. And if you can make sure people are aligned and that they understand how to and are comfortable with accountability loops, things work out. But when accountability is not fostered from the leadership level down, shit goes off the rails quick.
It does. Steve, you look like you got something you want to throw in there.
That's a technical term. Steve, you're muted.
I just wanted to ask Josh how often he has to explain the role of product management to the hiring manager of product management. I'm finding very often the people who are running product have no experience with product.
I won't say that we have to deal with that frequently.
Your mouth says no, no, no. Your head says yes, yes, yes.
But it is fascinating because different people have different understandings of what it is. And honestly, what a product manager is to a Home Depot who has well-established products internally and externally facing versus a startup with 30 people that's launching new products and is pretty heavy greenfield. Those are different people.
Yeah.
So one person's definition of a product manager or one organization's definition could be completely different than what another is. Doesn't mean one's right or wrong. But so we like to identify where the product is in the life cycle. We've had companies that want to hire product managers and they're excited to work with somebody who has a greenfield background with a product that's within a year or two of being twilighted because they're building other product aids. And they can't understand why the greenfield product manager doesn't want to work on the product that is very obviously going to be twilighted or sunsetted in the next, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
So
different
having
mindset.
those conversations is like tap dancing in a landmine field. And, so I usually send one of my junior salespeople, I do those myself. Yeah, to help people learn and really understand. But those are tough conversations.
Kelly Jones, we have often bemoaned the types of position descriptions, job descriptions that come across our desks when people are reaching out saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a strong product person. Can you help me find somebody?" Or maybe this is a good opportunity for you. We've talked about the warning signs that we see. How do you identify the companies that really get product managers when they're out there hiring versus the ones who really don't even understand what they're hiring?
The ones that don't understand what they're hiring for, it really gets into technical weeds. My favorite requirement is needs to understand SQL. That is a red flag on a job description for an organization. So when I see companies that don't get it, the job description gets into really technical weeds. And the companies that do get it, they speak at a higher level. They're talking about business problems and strategy and the things we love to talk about. You can see the role of product management being a business owner within the job description. So that's when it really comes. And then I've got the flip side, which is candidates not quite getting it either. They'll position their resumes with product/project management or highlight their PNP, and those are yellow flags. And so Keith is red flag for me on the resume. So I see it on both the candidates who don't quite get the job because they might be working for an organization that treats it like a project manager, and or the flip side, which is the hiring company and what they're asking for in it, like a PMP in addition to something like SQL.
Yeah.
The other thing I see in candidates that don't quite get it is an overemphasis on backlog grooming. That's also another yellow, oranges flagged for me.
Yeah, that's really getting into the product owner team management side of things and not so much of the strategic side of things if there's an overemphasis on that.
Yeah.
Jerry, you look like you want to add too?
Yeah, well, Kelly just mentioned something that I've seen recently, and I think it ties back to something that Joshua was wrapping up with. I have seen a recent trend for product managers wanting their PMI certification, and I always scratch my head and say, why? Like, why are you looking for that certification? And all I can presume is it's going to open doors, and it's going to open doors in the major corporations of the world, the Home Depots, which connects back to Joshua's comment earlier. A large organization like and I'm not going to pick on Home Depot. I mean, pick one. Their product managers have to think differently and have different responsibilities than that of a startup. When you're a startup product manager, some things you might do every day include clean the bathroom, right? Like there's just 5 of us here. Somebody has to take care of buying the beer, restocking the fridge, whatever.
Would like to see a job description that has, read aloud from Jira to the developer as a, or forward PDFs from SharePoint to sales teams, the strategic parts of product management.
Exactly.
I'm not necessarily opposed to somebody having a PMP. I mean, it's helpful to be able to manage projects, but it's not product management.
Right.
And
Exactly.
the challenge with the PMP or the project management skill, then you tend to treat engineers as widget makers or manufacturers. When
Yes.
really you're not allowing engineering to do what they do well, which is connect them back to the problem and let them creatively or uniquely solve it. When you start to treat, if you're a project manager, you are most definitely going to focus on output and just treat engineers like they're on a manufacturing line. So connecting them to the big problem is really important to be unique as well.
Yeah.
Kelly, you're dead on, but it also creates a conflict internally to product manager that doesn't and shouldn't be there. If that's the case, then a product manager immediately ends up being distracted with the urgent versus the important. And they're holding, it creates something where they can't see the things they should be holding dev accountable to, or metricing it to show them in exchange for the things that become urgent around dev cycles on specific features. I mean, it takes them out of their lane and creates something where they are ineffective and creating conflicts that don't need to be there at the cost of the conflicts and collaborations that should.
Today, we're going to be talking about product management frameworks, and specifically a framework for organizing the way you think about the work you do as a product manager, so you leave nothing on the floor and have really clear approaches to how we do this job that we get to do. As we mentioned with Anjali earlier, so many people learn product management by following the next urgent task. What's the next thing that I'm being asked for? That's what I'm going to go create and what I'm going to go do. But if you can apply a little bit of forethought to it and have a framework for how you're going to approach the fullness of your work, you can be a lot more effective, create much more value in the marketplace, and have a lot more fun in your role. So I'm going to welcome Steve Johnson, our sponsor for Product Growth Leaders, who's going to walk us through his views on product management process and the Quartz framework. Welcome, Steve. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here. It seems to me that products get launched through individual heroics, despite the company's best efforts to prevent it. And yet everybody else feels like they don't know what's going on. They have no visibility into what's happening with product. And so they ask stupid questions like, tell me every feature we're going to ship over the next year. And, my reply is, tell me every lead that's going to close over the next year. But still, it seems like everybody has more on their to-do list than they can ever accomplish, which I think is familiar in every department, right? We always have our eyes bigger than our stomach. We always have more to do than we have resources to do. I once worked at a billion-dollar software company, and it seemed like everyone could say no, but nobody would say yes. And we had so much process, we could never get anything done. Later, I joined a startup, and within a week I was pulling my hair out because they didn't have any process at all. It was complete chaos. Everybody was trying to do everybody else's job. And yet as soon as I said, oh, we need a little bit of process, everybody's putting up shields. They're like, oh no, that's big company thinking. We don't need process. And yeah, you really do. Process is guardrails. Process is like a road. I mean, we in America have agreed that we're going to drive on the right. And then, when we're in England, we're going to get somebody else to drive. But here we're agreed that the right-hand side is for me and, oncoming traffic is on the other side. So process is like a road. It gives us a set of rules so we don't hurt ourselves or others. It provides guides so that we stay in our lane. It provides guardrails so we don't go careening off the side of the mountain. Otherwise, you just got chaos. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was going to say a thing about France. Process is good. Process is how product companies scale. But unfortunately, a lot of process is too much process. 47% report that process is the biggest challenge for products in their company. And very often the solution is, hey, let's bring in a big consulting company, or hey, let's bring in scaled agile in some form. And that's too much. And we find that it feels like, as I said, it's like we're pushing the product out and fighting off the enemies of the other department, and it shouldn't feel that way. So process is good. We want a process that is systematic. It's consistent, using the same tools from product to product, the same templates from product to product, and transparent, so that the stakeholders have visibility into what it is we're going to be delivering. Ideally, you want processes to align understanding among multiple groups, and they need to be small. Smaller processes are always better than bigger processes. And as you'll see, each department has their own processes, and we need to understand what the handoffs are from our process to their process. Think of it like APIs. Processes are meant to be living ideas, and like a product, they should be continually evaluated for effectiveness. It could very well be, just like with a product, you find out that nobody's using this feature or nobody's using this step in the process. Let's skip it. I'm told that ISO 9000 certification means you have a process that you follow. Nowhere in there does it say you have a good process. So if your process is, when this happens, run screaming down the hallway, then as long as you do that every time, you're good. But for us, it's like, we want to have a process that's easy enough to understand that we will follow it, and we can provide transparency to the people we work with. And yet a lot of processes look like this. I couldn't actually find a Japanese subway map. And so instead, here's the agile landscape as it reported by Deloitte. But sometimes the process looks like this, and it's horrific. I mean, how in the world can you make any sense out of it? And I think that is what leads us to products that feel like this. We add a feature, and we add a feature, and we add a feature, and we add a feature. And before you know it, you've got something that is unusable. And by the way, I love this particular story. This knife has been around for at least a decade, and it's a real knife. At first, I thought it was like a Photoshop gag, but the Swiss Army people, for their 100th anniversary, built a knife that had every single blade they'd ever put on a knife. And, I think there's like a USB stick in here, and there's fingernail clippers, and there's a magnifying glass, everything. And I said to my wife, we have got to get one of these. And she said, you are out of your mind. And I'm like, honey, it's only $1,000. And she was even more reluctant. And then she reminded me that it's a cute prop, but I couldn't travel with it. I mean, imagine getting that through the TSA, right? But this comes from something we've been talking about earlier today, this whole factory manufacturing mindset that we have, that we look at everything so atomically that everybody's working on their little bit, but they don't see the big picture. They don't see the strategy of it all. So we need a way to get from an idea to a successful product.